All right. Well, that was a cheery little movie for the Christmas season.
Ringing in the Christmas season right.
Wow, that was...
Oh. Woo!
I didn't really get how you felt about this movie. I guess... Okay, well, we went and saw Nightmare Alley. And, if you don't know what this movie's about, it's about a loner with a mysterious, unknown past, played by Bradley Cooper, that you kind of figure out as the movie goes along.
Mm-hmm.
Stumbles across an old 1930s, 1940s carnival, and takes up with the carnies there, and basically tries to find his way conning people, but through the carnies, which itself is a code,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a con anyways, because it's all these freaks, that aren't really freaks, they just make shit up.
Mm-hmm.
You got your Spider Woman, whatever, the Electric Woman, which is, it's all nonsense. You got the Mentalist, and that's ultimately the act that he really falls in with. He copies this act from this group of mentalists played by Toni Collette and her husband, played by David I forget how you pronounce his name. He was the guy from Nomadland.
Right.
I recognized him from that. And that's basically, that's really just like the first act of this film.
Yeah,
that's not really...
And then the second half is just like him leaving the carnival.
With Rooney Mara.
Rolling with this new mentalist act. And then he gets way in over his head.
It goes wrong. It goes wrong. Just like...
Rapidly.
Just like he's told, early on, he's like, this act, is something, it's a Pandora's box, basically. This is something you don't want to, because he gets told by Toni Collette's husband that, if you do this act, there's danger in this act. That's why I quit.
He called it shut-eye?
Shut-eye, yeah. I guess where by that he means you don't see you don't see what's coming.
And you start to kind of believe it yourself.
Mm-hmm. And because he ends up eventually, yeah. Well, so I guess we can go ahead and before we get deeper into it, we can go ahead and talk about, I guess, the first half of the film, which I will say was by far my favorite part of this.
Definitely.
I
mean, just like anything with a dark circus aesthetic, like, take my money already. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's neat. It reminds me a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I really dug about this film at first. Like you said, the carnival stuff was easily my favorite part of this film. It reminds me of something Tim Burton would have made when he was flying high in the 90s. Like everything from, like, if he would have made between his Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Big Fish phase, which I feel like was his golden years.
And also, it gave me, like, big time Something Wicked This Way Comes vibes.
Definitely.
I feel like if Del Toro wanted to do his take on that book and he used the same aesthetic,
it would work.
It would, like,
100% it would work.
Yes.
Another thing I liked about this is a movie that it's apparently it's actually a remake of a noir film from the 40s that was in turn based on actually a noir novel called of the same name. And one of the things about this film is that if you had made this film in the 1950s instead of the 1940s, like the original apparently was, I 100% would see Vincent Price playing someone in this film.
Very much.
There's no really,
he'd probably play the guy Willem Dafoe plays.
That is the number one person. I could see him maybe playing Toni Collette's husband. But 100%, I feel like if you had made this film in the 1950s, Vincent Price would have played the Willem Dafoe carnival barker guy. 100% creepy.
I can just picture it right now.
Willem Dafoe has made the career of playing the creepy guy. He
does it so well.
I love how there are two movies right now, both in theaters right now, with Willem Dafoe in them playing a creep. The other is him reprising Green Goblin in Spider-Man No Way Home. Oh gosh.
That's great.
But yeah, and when this movie is doing that, when this movie was focused on that circus act, that is honestly where I felt the atmosphere was the strongest. Which in a Del Toro film is usually always your strongest element of the film is going to be atmosphere. I'm trying to think of something else about...
They got Ron Perlman.
Ron
Boy
Perlman.
himself.
Oh yeah, Ron Perlman. Yeah, I could almost see Vincent Price maybe playing him. Maybe not the whole tough guy routine.
Yeah, not the Bruno the Strongman type thing.
But I could see maybe Vincent Price kind of playing him because Vincent Price had a very unique face, kind of like Perlman does. But yeah, I was really liking this film at first. When it was the whole setup of this film was really where I thought like it was most impressive. It was kind of setting up, you don't know Bradley Cooper's past, and you're kind of left there to figure it out for yourself. That was definitely what I really liked about this film at first. But man, the second half of this, it felt like a totally different film, and I don't mean that in a good way.
Yeah, it kind of did. I wouldn't say that I highly disliked it. Like, it felt off. There were still a lot of things to
I didn't highly
love.
dislike this film either.
Like, I think it's kind of like a Last Night in Soho situation. I wanted to like it more than I did. I definitely wouldn't say I dislike it. I liked this film.
This, for me, is so hard to pick. I feel like I definitely, after a while, I would say about the time they brought the Kate Blanchett plot into the second half of this film is where I began to really feel Last Night in Soho about this. I'm like, okay, this is a gorgeous film, but man, you're not sucking me into this story at all. At least in Soho, I was at least somewhat invested in the story all the way through. I didn't feel like Last Night in Soho was tedious. That was my problem. That is the kill word for me on this film. This film gets really tedious for me.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was feeling like you didn't really get that, though.
I was kind of sucked into it. Like, I guess I'm just like a real sucker for the noir and horror aspects. Like when you get the two in one, and I was kind of sucked in. Like there were obviously parts where I was like, can we kind of like roll it along a little faster? Yeah. But other than that, I did get like I felt like there were enough tense moments to really kind of keep me sucked in there.
Yeah, there just wasn't. For me, like I said, this is a weird film for me. Like I don't know how I feel about it. Like
I will say it's not my favorite Del Toro movie.
Not by far.
Like
not by far.
It's not up to like say Pan's Labyrinth or Shape of Water.
Definitely not.
For me,
Devil's Backbone, nowhere close. Which I feel like Devil's Backbone is like his underrated masterpiece. Devil's Backbone is the one almost very few people have heard of. I would argue it's better than even Shape of Water. I love Devil's Backbone.
I'll need to give that a look. It's definitely not up in the tops with Del Toro's films.
Definitely not.
But I'd still say I liked it.
Oh, really?
Like I'd say it was a fair movie.
Yeah, there were things I could have done so much without the hokiness of it. It feels very hokey, I would say, is one big word that also I would use to describe this film, which I guess kind of makes sense considering these are hokey people doing hokey things to make a living. But man, when you start having this thing with Kate Blanchett, the way Kate Blanchett's character pops up into this film and is that Bradley Cooper's mentalist character ends up reaching sort of a negotiation with her where he wants to basically where she's a psychiatrist or a psychologist and she has connections basically to the people that he needs, because obviously the thing about mentalists is they're good at reading people, but you can really make it work if you somehow know something nobody would know
deep,
about.
Dirty
and that's where this psychologist comes into, she's got records on these people, these high profile rich people, and that he can use things against them to milk money off of them. And that's where she comes into it. The thing is, I do not understand what interest she had in him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because
that was so underdeveloped, in my opinion.
I guess it was because he was like an interesting mental case, but yeah, like when they were at the climax when she
does the big reveal.
It's like that definitely confused me quite a bit.
It was like letting this movie, the whole second half of this movie was like letting air out of a balloon. It just doesn't. I guess maybe on paper Del Toro thought this wind down would be way more interesting because of how tightly they wind this film up. Yeah. I guess they thought it would be a lot more like explosive It doesn't. It just, I didn't feel anything in the last act of this. I didn't feel like I was getting like the end of like something like Vertigo, you know, or gosh, I didn't feel like I was getting the end of like the original Old Boy, you know, the South Korean version. You know, I'm like, and there's elements in this film that like kind of remind me of those films. This doesn't have the same effect on me.
Do you think if they like took out the entire like Kate Blanchett subplot, it probably would have been stronger?
Well, I get why she's important. It's just not effective. It's too slight, and it's just not very substantial. I just didn't. I don't know. It was just a dud. It blew a lot of smoke, but it didn't pop. That was my problem with this film. I wish. Gosh, I almost want to watch it. I wish we could watch it again, and you know, I could point out exactly why this doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in it too that I feel like. Well, if you want to say something, I think about it.
That twist at the very end. Wow, talk about karma. I kind of knew that was going to come up at some point. I wish they didn't sit there and over-explain it like they did. I wish that they didn't like extend it.
He's like, you know what that is, don't you? Like, no, we know what when the moment he said temporary work, that was what good enough. Del Toro should have left well enough alone on that last ending, and just if he had just said that, and then had the part with Bradley Cooper just laughing, because you get why he's laughing. He realizes he's at the end. He has nowhere else to go. That would have been a way. That would have made the ending better. That part of the ending better. What is the deal with Kate Blanchett's?
They never explained that.
I don't understand. I feel like we're missing information on this film as well. Gosh, this.
I don't know. Maybe again, like I'm just giving this like kind of to most films that came out of these past couple years. It might have been rushed. It might have become a victim of the pandemic as well. It's kind of like Last Night. I feel the same way about Last Night in Soho too. It might have fallen victim to sitting too long during the pandemic.
Gosh, I don't know. This to me was. It just wasn't anything close to what I was hoping it would be. Like this. I don't know. It's just not a...
Like, I personally, like, to the general crowd, I would recommend it, personally. Just because it's... Del Toro just does a good job of everything else.
If you like good production design, you'll love this film. Yeah, it's just, if you're a big stickler on characterization and story like I am, you'll feel like this is a very empty film. It's a very empty, very...
But in terms of, like, and I will give Del Toro this, he loves a brutal kill scene.
He does. Oh, my God.
The guy got his freaking face caved in like the guy in Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, gosh, dang it. I mean, Bradley Cooper was pulling the guy's teeth out of his fist.
I know.
God.
And that's why I guess I probably like this film a little more, just because I'm so sucked in by all like the little visual tiny hints here and there, the little tiny details he puts in, because I'm like a big time sucker for attention to detail production design.
Yeah, I just...
like how the psychiatrist's office, the wall paneling was all Rorschach tests.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was an interesting little detail that they put in there.
Yeah.
Like any other person would probably look like, oh, yeah, that's some interesting wall paneling she's got there. And then you look close, like, oh. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, the thing about, and also like that was also where I kind of felt like the plot started to come apart at the seams. I don't completely buy this thing about like the businessman. I don't buy 100% that he would be convinced to the point he's seeing a ghost. Vertigo, and that's again one of the things that kind of makes me think of Vertigo. Vertigo's like that. Jimmy Stewart becomes convinced that this woman he's hired to follow really is a ghost, and you believe that. And Hitchcock, because Hitchcock was such a great director, you do believe it along with him. That is this really a film that's set so realistic, and then suddenly he's putting you into this ghost plot, and of course it's not. That was I feel like Del Toro was trying to pull a Vertigo, and it didn't work. It didn't quite work. Gosh, yeah, this is not his worst film. I would still put this above Crimson Peak, which is by far my least favorite of his movies. Just because I was not as bored as often as I was in Crimson Peak.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably my second, though.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't put it up there with Pan's Labyrinth
No,
and Shape
not at
of
all.
Water. It's
Not
like
at all. I wouldn't even put it above Blade 2.
Yeah. But I'd say, like, if you're looking for something tense, visually appealing, I would say I would recommend it.
Yeah,
like, I
grotesque.
grotesque. I would personally I'd actually recommend it to people if they wanted something to watch.
That's definitely, yeah. I feel like when I'm at the point where this, for me, on a ratings, this is a 2.5 out of me. A 2.5 is where I put it. I can't recommend it, but I know some people would probably still like it. So it's a thumbs down, but there's an audience for this.
I'd give it a 3.25.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. This is one I had really high expectations for, because they put this one on the critics. Was it the Critics' Choice Awards? No, the New York Film Critics Society. One of them released the top 10 list this year. This one was on there, and I'm honestly convinced this one may be a Best Picture contender. But again, that may just be because of Guillermo del Toro's name. I don't know. I mean, if this is a Best Picture nominee, man,
I mean, considering that
this will be by far probably most likely my least favorite.
Yeah.
Out of the movies I'm expecting.
And honestly, like, considering that it would have to go up against his other Best Picture winner, Shape of Water. It's like, and they're obviously, first of all, they're like two completely different films. But one is just is a bit more better.
Shape
than
of
the
Water.
other.
Okay, I can tell you where they're similar, but also where Shape of Water does something better. They both have very blatant archetypes for characters. The difference is Shape of Water used them in a more airtight plot, and also used them to make a message about society. Those were all archetypes: a woman with a disability, a woman of color, a gay man, and a literal monster. And how they are seen as invalid to society. That was the message of Shape of Water. And of like 1950s America. It was a criticism of the way in which certain people see themselves, in which people are made to be outsiders. This film, there's nothing I can really say what this movie says, except really all the kind of basic noir and mystery and psychological thriller tropes we've seen before and done better.
Yeah, I feel like it could have gone a little further, but oh well. Next time.
I don't know. This was.
But I'd still like recommend it to people.
Yeah, this was a letdown for me. I guess unless we got anything else to say, I guess we can go into trailers.
Yeah.
You missed most of the trailers.
I missed a couple. I made the mistake of getting getting fried food from the grill, and they told me it'd be 6 minutes, and I looked at my clock, it's already 4:20.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit.
You really didn't miss it. We only got 3 in this. One was called, the first one of these movies we got was called, well, let's go ahead and talk about the one you did see, The King's Man.
King's Man, yeah, I've seen a lot of trailers for that.
I'm interested in seeing this.
I'm interested in it too.
I did love the first one.
Yeah, the first one was really good.
Second one, Golden Circle, I didn't care for as much at all.
I didn't see Golden Circle. I don't know, it's just, I don't know why, but like when they started naming off the names of the American Kingsmen, I'm like, really? You didn't go for presidents, maybe? You went immediately for alcohol? Okay.
That one's
Which I'm sure there was some deeper meaning behind it explained in the movie, but that just kind of threw me off a little bit.
No, there's really not.
No, they just did it because.
I've seen that one. The Golden Circle was not anywhere as entertaining as the first one. Gosh. I am excited for The King's Man. This is supposed to be like a prequel to like of the King. Like basically, I guess is how they got their start. I am interested in seeing this one.
Yeah, that one looks
it comes out this weekend, and we may see if you want to go see that one, that can be our movie for next week if you're not busy.
Yeah, I think I should be.
And I'll ask Mikey You know, I feel like that might be a movie Mikey might like too. Mikey was supposed to be here tonight with us, and he had to change. He had plans, I guess, because of the holidays being so close. I'm not surprised by that.
Like honestly, I almost didn't show up because I forgot because we were prepping to have guests over, and we've been cleaning all day. And then you texted me. I'm like, oh shit!
Yeah,
I was supposed to be here.
I was surprised you both told me you would be free this week because how close we're less than 5 days away from Christmas.
I know, and it's like I didn't. Like, I thought, like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely not going to forget. Yep, I forgot.
Yeah. I almost forgot, too. I was literally just finished editing and uploading my Spider-Man review video. So, yeah, so Kingsman, yeah, we'll check that one out. That'll be our next week one if everybody's free. I
caught, like, the last bit of Sundown, but I still don't know what the plot
talk about, yeah, okay. But while we're on the subject of Kingsman, we'll talk about the very first one, The Outfit. Yeah. A movie called The Outfit, which looks very similar to The Kingsman. It's got Mark Rylance in it, and I can't exactly get what there's like. Basically, it's like The King's Man. If the people who ran the suit shop had to protect the briefcase from Pulp Fiction. That's the best way I can explain this film. It reminds me of like something like Kingsman, the dress shop from Kingsman, combined with like No Sudden Move from earlier this year that I watched on HBO Max, where it's basically there's like this secret briefcase that people are after. And also it's kind of got like, did you ever see Good Times at the El Royale? Mm-mm. It kind of got a little bit of that vibe. Like, lots of quirky little characters and archetypes are going to be coming into this shop. Like, it looks interesting. Like, that one comes out next year. I don't know. I'll look into that one. But yeah, you didn't see that one. And then you came in right as this one. I missed what it was called at first, but I looked in. It's got Tim Roth and Charlotte Gainsbourg in it. And when I typed in their names together, it popped up with something coming out called Sundown. So I'm assuming that's what we saw. That looks boring to me. I'm just gonna say that now. It looks boring. It looks like one of these kinds of movies that like. Is sitting there, like, it's literally got, like, lines in it. Like, I'm like, okay, this is going to be one of those movies where it's going to be people sitting in a silent room, giving really vague dialogue at each other. Mm-hmm. And, man, I'm tired of those films. I'm so... it reminds... Like, there's literally in the trailer, it's, like, something like, she's like, you know what happened, don't you? Yes. Why'd you do it? I don't know. Like, oh, God. I'm like, this is that art house kind of...
Like the... Trying to be Wes Anderson dialogue without understanding.
No, it's just this too smart for you kind of like. It reminds me of that god awful film, The Souvenir, I watched a few years ago. It had Tilda Swinton's daughter in it. God, that was a fucking sucky movie. It was one of these like top movies of like the year, like on critics' list, and I'm like, fuck y'all. Y'all thought. Y'all are probably the same ones that gave this movie a positive review.
Oh, no.
Yeah, like, oh, God, that looks so boring. Oh, my God. Gosh, I'll probably still watch it. Okay. That was it. They only gave us like 3 trailers for this film.
Yeah, well, we were also in like a really small
theater. I don't know. It was a weird night. It was a weird night. An underwhelming film. Very few interesting trailers to talk about in a small theater.
Yeah, which was I don't know why. I guess not enough people were going to see it.
I don't know.
That was, and I didn't even know that they had that. I thought that's like usually for the private party rooms.
I guess so.
And they just stuck us in there.
This is a weak Tuesday night. Especially after how much I enjoyed Spider-Man over the weekend.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was expecting this to be like the grand finale for before I have to go back to work tomorrow.
Oh no.
And I'm like, God, no, this ended up I wish I'd saw Spider-Man tonight. Wish I'd ended on the great one.
I remember looking at the text scene, you and Amber like raving about it, and I'm just like, wow.
At 1 o'clock in the morning.
At 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, wow, they must really enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
Which I wish I could get into it, but I'm just not like a Marvel superhero.
If you like Spider-Man, just watch the Spider-Man ones. You know, I feel like Spider-Man sits outside that Marvel universe
like,
that anybody can enjoy Spider-Man.
And I'm just like kind of that weirdo who's just like, I saw like 2 Deadpool movies and that's about as deep into Marvel as I got. And one bad X-Men movie.
Yeah. Which one was that?
I think, what was it, Last Stand?
Last Stand sucks.
Yeah, that was the one.
Was that the one with the girl, you know, who's got like the shockwaves? Was it the one, or the one with Beast? Kelsey Grammer is Beast, where he's like the big blue guy with the beard.
I do not. It was like, I think I might have been.
Did it have Angel in it? The guy with the wings?
Maybe. I don't. Again, it was like, I was 9 when I saw it.
Okay.
So I don't remember.
You don't remember anything? You don't remember the scene when Mystique is like pretending to be the president of the United States in the holding cell? I don't know. I
know that was like one that I kind of like blocked out of my mind.
Last Stand sucks. Last Stand sucks. Gosh. Okay, so I guess we don't really have anything else to say about this. I guess check out Nightmare Alley if you're still not, if you don't take my word for it, but yeah, okay, so I guess next week we got let me talk about this week. First of all, we got I'm going to probably finally see West Side Story this weekend.
Okay.
Probably by myself. I don't think anybody cares anything about West Side Story. I'm going, and then also I get The Matrix Resurrections on HBO Max. I think tomorrow, so I'll be having those this weekend. Nice. And then I guess we'll look into doing King's Man next week. Yeah. So, yeah, so I guess this is it. Anything else you want to add?
Not really. I just say check it out if you want. If you want to.
All right. Well, see y'all later.